familiarity deserves intentionality. So FDI is kind of how I remember it. Familiarity deserves intentionality. So these great things that we have that we become, desensitized to are actually like amazing, and they deserve the intentional focus. So it could be just as simple as like being grateful for running water, grateful for that your kids, your wife, whatever, that you have a roof over your head. There's the things that you have totally taken for granted because you're looking for the next thing, that gap out there. And so that would be just like, whether it's journaling or gratitude or whatever it is, just take stock of how far you've come and be prideful in that, and take great confidence and realize like every small moment is a great opportunity to feel really good and help people.
Let's discover what people are building in the greater Cleveland community. We are telling the stories of Northeast Ohio's entrepreneurs, builders, and those supporting them. Welcome to the Lay of the Land podcast, where we are exploring what people are building in Cleveland and throughout Northeast Ohio. I am your host, Jeffrey Stern, and today I had the absolute pleasure of speaking with Nick Dadas. In 2003, as a sophomore still in college at Miami University, Nick co-founded University Tees after trying to organize a t-shirt order for his fraternity and becoming frustrated with his experience trying to do so. So he and his co-founder Joe decided that there had to be a better way, and like all good entrepreneurs, they started their own company. Since then, University Tees, now located here in Cleveland, Ohio, has gone on to grow into the premier custom apparel brand for the college market, with over 700 campus managers at over 300 colleges nationwide, over 150 full-time employees at the company, and with expanded capabilities for the corporate market, in addition, where they've built a reputation for excellence, servicing large-scale distributors and retail programs at volume all across the country from their brand new full-service production facility here in Cleveland. As you'll hear about, though, in our conversation today, Nick's entrepreneurial focus is not limited strictly to University Tees. Over the past few years, Nick has founded and continues to operate a whole plethora of businesses. He founded SISU Lifestyle, a leading sauna manufacturing company and brand focused on affording the best sauna experience possible. He founded the Acton Academy Lakeside, a one-room schoolhouse for the 21st century and for his own 3 children and other families who share the desire for an innovative approach to education. He founded the ISI Life, standing for Iron Sharpens Iron, where he hosts a podcast of his own and has built a community for men in pursuit of developing habits for success, establishing life-giving relationships, and building momentum towards a life of excellence. He founded MasterPlan Coach, a comprehensive executive coaching program for entrepreneurs seeking to achieve authentic success across their personal and professional lives. And all in, Nick is a true entrepreneur, applying his problem-solving mindset to all aspects of his life, and thematically ties his work together to a foundational principle of developing people and changing lives, another topic which we will unpack in our conversation today. This was such an engaging and fun conversation. Nick is intentional and thoughtful and full of wisdom and candor, and it was a real joy getting to hear his story and reflections. So please enjoy my conversation with Nick Dadas after a brief message from our sponsor. Lay of the Land is brought to you by Impact Architects and by 90. As we share the stories of entrepreneurs building incredible organizations in Cleveland and throughout Northeast Ohio, Impact Architects has helped hundreds of those leaders, many of whom we have heard from as guests on this very podcast, realize their own visions and build these great organizations. I believe in Impact Architects and the people behind it so much that I have actually joined them personally in their mission to help leaders gain focus, align together, and thrive by doing what they love. If you too are trying to build great, Impact Architects is offering to sit down with you for a free consultation or provide a free trial through 90, the software platform that helps teams build great companies. If you are interested in learning more about partnering with Impact Architects or by leveraging 90 to power your own business, please go to ia.layoftheland.fm. The link will also be in our show notes. Okay. So it was hard to figure out where the best place to start the conversation would be, because you're sort of a Renaissance man. I feel like in the sheer breadth
First time being called a Renaissance man.
From educational institutions to saunas to clothing company and manufacturing to podcasts and the gamut. And so rather than just diving into that, I wanted to start maybe more conceptually with an idea that I think we can ground the whole conversation in, because I think it likely permeates everything that you do, which is this philosophy of developing people and changing lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love if you could share what this means and where it comes from and how you came to embody it.
Yeah. Well, it's a little four-letter acronym that we use I use it, on a personal level, but also within the different businesses or organizations I'm involved with, from universities to the school to ISI. And it really just stands for develop people and change lives. And it's when I boil it down or keep asking myself, what motivates me or why do I do this? And it continues to come back to that. And it's not only just other people, but it's also, myself. I want to continue to grow and develop and grow my skills and grow my impact. But also then as I fill up my cup and pour over into other people, how can I help lift them along the way? I look back and some of the most joyous things I can remember, whether it's my family or our team members or clients that we've worked with, it's actually helping them develop and grow. And so just through lots of thought and research and discussion, really trying to simplify it and boil it down, that's kind of where I've landed.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned motivation, and I was talking to TJ Gliha, who originally introduced us and shared his own story on the podcast too. But I was asking him about what I should make sure to ask you about. And I think it's already apparent to me, why he would want to understand this. But knowing the breadth of undertakings that you've taken on and this grounding philosophy of develop people, change lives, what actually does motivate you? And how have you cultivated that discipline to genuinely practice what you preach?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm just going to read it because it's something I look at every day. This is just from my favorites on my phone. But I think, what motivates me, I would just come back to my mission statement, and right at the top of it is DPCL. So this is what motivates me.
Yeah.
And for me, so my faith is an important piece, an integral piece of everything I do. And so it's woven in here. And so mine, the thing that motivates me is this. It says to honor God by continually seeking and living out my full potential while making a positive and eternal impact in the lives of others. And so I feel like that's what motivates me if I'm doing that. If I'm improving myself and therefore hopefully improving others, that's motivating to me because I feel like, being used to my fullest. And so that's where DPCL is the most evident. So that's what's motivating me, is to wake up and be a better version of myself tomorrow and today than I was yesterday. That's it.
Amazing. Well, in the state of that fullest, I think it would be helpful before we get, really into the nuance of all the things that you're building, just if at a high level, you could paint a picture for us of how you would frame all the things that you're working on and, what at a glance all these businesses are.
Yeah. So right now, actively involved in universities, which was our college startup. And that's the main thing that really has allowed a lot of the other things to happen. We're on year 20 of this college, dorm room startup, and I'm sure we'll get into that later. So universities, and then also my wife and I started a school. We're in year 2 now, Acton Academy, Lakeside in Bay Village, a learner-driven Christian school, very unique and kind of first of its kind here in Cleveland for sure. And then Iron Sharpens Iron, which is a nonprofit men's and eventually women's ministry, just helping guys become the best version of themselves by doing retreats. And then through our own exploration into the use of sauna and cold therapy, we have this fun, super awesome sauna business called SISU Sauna. And so they're really just manifestations of things that we've done or been involved with. And they all really came from wanting to scratch our own itch.
Right. I was trying to think about and understand if there was a thread that ties all of these things together. I'd be curious your take if it, but it's just kind of an embodiment and representation of the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah, or passionate about, and maybe the intersection of seeing a problem and being entrepreneurial and saying, if I'm not the only one I can't be the only one that has this problem or this need. And so do a little research, step into it, see if it truly is a problem, beyond just like Nancy and I and and then, building things that I want. I can't be alone in that. And so that's even going back to universities, and different things we've done have really always came from, I'm doing this. This is a problem. How can I use my entrepreneurial skills to do it? But then also making sure it does tie back into that DPCL. Like I see business as a way to, build relationships, impact people, whether it's your team, your clients, and business is a great platform to impact people, to make an impact on those around you, not just make a bunch of money. And it's like, what good is that? Like, that's not a great use of that resource. But investing in people, I think, is. So that kind of gets to your.
I can't wait to explore all these different endeavors that you've embarked on. But maybe it does make sense just to kind of start chronologically and we'll go back in time to your time at Miami University and what happened there and take us through the origins.
Yeah, we were at Miami. I transferred to Miami. I was originally thinking I was going to be a professional golfer. So I was I was down. I was playing competitive golf down at Coastal Carolina and transferred to Miami. And I got to Miami, met a few people in the dorms that first year. One of them was Joe Haddad, who's my business partner at University Tees. And I roomed with a guy named Brett McNally, who's also one of our partners and runs all the print shop. But we were ordering shirts for a fundraiser for Green Beer Day.
Yeah.
And we were ordering, maybe like 500 shirts, not like a huge order, but to sophomores in college, like that was a big deal to put,
that is a big deal.
A couple $1,000 on the line.
Oh yeah.
So we were trying to buy shirts and then resell them. And we were ordering bulk shirts from this company on campus called Moonshine. And it's like the hippie, like van, company. But it's who every sorority and every fraternity on campus went to. Literally, if you were ordering shirts, you were ordering through Moonshine. And we had a bad experience. They were just rude to us, not great pricing. The final quality wasn't great. Just everything about the whole experience was just, kind of garbage. And it was more just out of frustration. And we needed a place to go. And we didn't want to continue to give these people our money. And then we found out all these other sororities were having the exact same issue. And so the idea was like, don't sell Green Beer Day shirts. Become the go-to supplier for all of the student organizations who are printing shirts.
Yeah.
And so we kind of switched gears, went upstream, like one level, and became known as the go-to supplier on Miami's campus for all the Greek life and student organizations. And then just so happened that a lot of our friends were in school, like Dayton and Ohio State,
sure.
Wesleyan, OU. And we gave them our playbook and said, here, we're doing this at Miami to make some extra money, see if it works where you are. And then it worked there, and it worked at Dayton, and it worked at UC, and it worked at OU. And we're like, huh. And we were fortunate enough to be in some business classes and entrepreneurship classes that allowed us to work on our business and not just work on, fake projects. And it helped us work on the company and building the company, thinking about systems. And then we scaled it to, now we're on campuses all over the country, and we have 700 campus managers who are part of our program as reps, getting, great sales, marketing, entrepreneurial experience. But it came from scratching our own itch, but seeing an opportunity at the same time.
Yeah, just disrupting the local monopoly.
Yeah. I know. And it's funny that I remember the guy's name. I don't know why I remember this, but his name was John Brozier, and he ran that company. And he's like, yeah, these companies, like, they come and go. Every couple of years, you'll see another one pop up. And I was just on campus like 2 weeks ago, and the local Moonshine's no longer there. So it's sad to say, but it was like, it's just kind of just crazy to see the thing full circle.
Sure. Yeah. But there's a staying power to what you've built, though, on the flip side of it. When you reflect on, dorm room project grown into a company with, covering a large proportion of the colleges and universities across the country.
Yeah.
What were the, most formative kind of parts of that journey as you reflect on it?
Yeah, the big steps were getting that first order. Like someone from the Alpha Delta Pi was like the first sorority, which is hilarious. Yeah, and throw around all these Greek terms to you. They were the ones who gave us a shot and said, "Yeah, we'll order our like bid day shirts from you guys." And so we had that opportunity. We treated it very seriously. So getting that first order was a big one, and then realizing at our friends at other schools, the same thing that we were doing to get orders would work on other schools was a next big milestone. And then really like the big one, like the really big one came when I came to graduation.
Yeah.
And we got this business up, and we were maybe doing I don't know, maybe $100,000 in revenue, like just top line at that time. Not huge, like very, very small. Mm-hmm. And everybody was going out and getting jobs, getting their first job, which was paying 50, 60,000 salary, whatever it was at that time. I graduated in 2005. And so it was, do I continue on this thing that, I think it has a chance to be, it could be a large company, it could be very successful, it could be really fun and, impactful. Or do I kind of take the safe path and use my marketing entrepreneurship major or join maybe my dad's family business? And that was an impactful thing to say, you know what, like I'm going to give it a couple years, and worst case scenario, it doesn't work. And I'll go back to those things anyway. And so that was a pivotal one. That was 2005, and, going out solo, on my own at that time was a big one, and then got enough momentum to keep it going, thankfully. And then the next big one was when we decided to get into production ourselves, which was 2009. We were outsourcing for the first 6 years, and then decided to rent space and buy the screen printing equipment, buy the embroidery equipment, and vertically integrate and kind of control our own production process.
Yeah.
And then making it through the pandemic in an event-based business was the next one, which we're now on the other side of for the most part.
Yeah. That's amazing. Did you, obviously you opted to take that first step when you were graduating to take on more of the risk and trial by fire, you figure it out as you went. Yeah. Did you have a sense at that point in time of what it could become?
Yeah. Yeah. We had, we at that point maybe had 5 to 7 campuses that were doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And it was more, I had a vision of it being on, 150, 200 schools across the country where we felt like our model could really work. And so it was more, how do I grow and who do I need around me to actually go down this path? Because at that point, Joe had gone into public accounting. He was working for Ernst & Young. So it was truly just solo at that point in time. But you could see it. It was crystal clear. Some of the work we had done in college, business plans that we had written were very clear on how we'd scale. And it was just a matter of actually executing it.
Yeah.
And I had a vision for it. And it was just a matter of how do we bring it about?
As you grew the business, how did you think about, growing yourself in parallel with it? As the scale and the scope and all of it grew, how did you approach, the culture of the company and those other pieces?
I don't know that at that point I was 22. I don't know that I was really thinking about it intentionally as I would have, liked to be, or if I'm being totally honest, but what I did have on my, in my advantage was, when I graduated college, my dad had an insurance company in Westlake, and he had an extra couple cubes in his office that weren't being used. So I would go, and that's where I would work. I would just work on university teas at their company. And a byproduct of that was just being around him and being invited to luncheons and different things that would make me see what people are doing. What were they reading? What were they studying? Just different thing, exposing my mind to things post-college.
Yeah.
And so naturally got pulled into book studies and different speakers and things that had kind of expanded and just kind of put me on a track of being just super curious and, reading this and reading that and going along, things with different people and exposed to his professional network and different people that then pulled me in and helped, just help me grow as an adult, just kind of shedding the college layers and moving into that next phase of life, which, is a big transition.
Absolutely. It brings me back to actually where we started. At what point in time did you develop the develop people change lives mentality? And where in the university teas journey did that become something that you felt was important?
That's a good question. I think it actually came as we were going through EOS and going through the process of, really clarifying, putting a lot of thought into distilling down what we're really about as an organization. And part of that journey was not what we hope to be, but truly who we are now.
Yep.
And that it wasn't an aspirational thing on the wall. It was, who are you guys as owners of this company? What are you all about? And I think it came about through that, which was maybe the 2015, 16. So, 8 or so years ago, it's kind of always been there, like in the background, but I think it got really clarified and helpful around that time frame.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of questions I have. One of them, and again, this comes from our conversation last time, is that I know you value, freedom and kind of entrepreneurship as a means to that in some ways. But I'd love to understand, what does that mean exactly?
It's a great question. I mean, definitely value freedom. I think that's what's great. That's one of the great things, the benefits of being entrepreneurial, is you can create your own, vision and create the world that you want to live in. But at the same time, I think there's like immense responsibility that comes along with freedom and responsibility, or with great freedom comes great responsibility. And I don't know that everybody really understands it unless they've been down that entrepreneurial path and realize what it takes to, at the end of the day, like it's on you or your owners and your team to really make things work. And so I love the benefits, and I love the challenge that comes along with it. But I think freedom ultimately comes, the benefit is being able to go to where you're feeling led, where you're feeling called. Like right now I'm in a little bit of a transitional of being like all in, having UTs only. And we're at a different transition with my wife and starting the school and being pulled in there and wanting to be there and having this amazing opportunity to go and spend time building the school, meeting these families, doing what we're doing there. So having that freedom to flow into, kind of where I'm feeling called or where I want to be is an amazing blessing. But if I felt stuck, I guess the opposite of freedom would be just like restrained or, stuck in something. I wouldn't have that ability to kind of go and adjust my schedule and adjust, what I'm focusing on and who I'm doing things with. So I think over time, it's been through different seasons of life, as a college kid to, single, married, not married, then married, no kids. It goes through these different seasons. And now we have 3 boys, 8, and 3. And life's different now. And so where I feel I want to be or need to be is different than what it was at different stages.
Yeah. It brings to mind, I think, something you also mentioned that maybe is like a counterweight potentially to that. But the idea of, working on the business versus in the business and how you've approached that. Also, as the organization has scaled and, maybe kind of more tactically how you think about delegation of responsibility and the team around you.
Yeah. It's definitely I've been through all of it, and I love certain elements of working in the business, and I also realize there's only so many. And for me, like when I define my work bucket, it's only so many hours that I'm willing to give to work. Because there's other things that are more important, like my relationship with Nancy and my relationship with the boys. Like I'm not gonna put other things in front of those. So really protective about how much time I'm actually working. So there's only so much I can do. Right. And there's a lot of people who are way better than I am. One of the most impactful books and kind of mindsets came from the book Who Not How. And you're familiar with that book?
I'm not actually.
It's an amazing mindset shift of when we're forced with a problem or an opportunity, we immediately kind of instinctively think, how can I solve that problem? Like what needs to happen? As opposed to great entrepreneurs, great thinkers, they think more, who's the right person that I need? Like, because really you have to put your ego aside and realize, yeah, maybe you're smart and you have experience and you're probably very capable of going and solving a lot of things. But the better question to ask yourself is, who is the right person? And when you bring in the right people and get the right people in the right seats, then they can actually go and solve the problem in a way better manner than you can. And so
it certainly resonates.
Yeah, that's what I thought about on the business is really it comes back to people. It's who's the right person that can go and be an absolute rock star at that thing that you're trying to solve.
Yeah. No, it makes
always
a
who thing. To me, it's always a who thing. I don't want to get into the what and like the mechanics of many things. It's usually more just like thinking about how do I attract and find that right person who's the right fit for this business opportunity or problem that we have.
Yeah. I mean, what resonates to me about that is, a lot of what I value about this podcast and all, this kind of exercise generally is, a lot of people have been through these problems before. Not many of these things are unique.
Yeah.
And so to the degree that you can find someone who has had the experience of solving the problem that you're trying to solve, it's probably a more effective way than trying to solve it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I think you can scale. And if depending on how many hours you want to work, that's really the only real way. There's only so many things that are in my sweet spot of things that only I can do. And so everything else needs to be handled by great people.
Yeah. How did you hone in on what you felt those things were for yourself?
So there's a process that I actually use. I'm definitely like more of a creator, but I'll read it to you. And I would call it there's different words for it: unique ability, your genius. A big thing for me was going through Strategic Coach. It was an entrepreneurial coaching program. Mm-hmm. One of their pieces that they walk you through is your unique ability. And there's a kind of a separate like workbook you can buy, and it's called the Unique Ability Workshop. And it really helps you define what are you great at, what lights you up, where do you find focus and flow, and what are you uniquely designed to do. And so I was really curious about that. I love personality tests and all those things. I mean, I could just geek out on this stuff all day long because I think it's ultimately, what good is a sundial in the shade, right? So like,
sure. Yeah.
So yeah, you want to be, so for mine, it's about discovering unique opportunities and crafting a simple solution and creating optimism and excitement for people. And so I found that through going through this, and I did a couple of things, did a couple of personality tests, like typical ones you'd think of, but then also writing like letters or emails to people who know me really well, who've worked with me, who've worked close with me, and saying, where do you feel like I bring my best to the team? When I am like, what is one thing when you think of like Nick, what is the biggest and most valuable thing I could bring to the table? And so you reach out to my mom, my dad, like who know me, maybe not so much in a bit, but they know me in a different way. And then associates and people who've worked alongside me, and ask that question. And you'll start to synthesize and see like the common themes, common denominators that came up. So I did that and just helped me. And these are the things I try when I'm working on the business or in the business. Those are the things that I try to say yes to. Anything else, I'm probably just going to make a mess. I'm just going to mess it up. Yeah.
So you've got university teas to call it a level of maturity and sustainability where you've been able to, maybe come up for air a bit, mm-hmm. and, see what's out there and explore some of these other things that you're working on.
Yeah.
Take us through like how you opted to like take the first step in any of these businesses. We could start with ISI maybe, but I want to, hit on SISU and the school and all of it.
Every one of them, ISI, SISU, the school, they all come from the same thing. It's just going through, for me, it's been just going through life and having something that feels off or seeing an opportunity, but it's through my own experience.
Yeah.
So in order, ISI we had our twin boys, and the boys.
And ISI is iron sharpens.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron. Yeah. It's just like we do a retreat, a 24-hour retreat twice a year, spring and fall. And it came from, running a business, doing a couple of things, and just being honestly overwhelmed. Like, how do I be excellent as an entrepreneur? Not in this order, but as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a husband. How do I stay fit? How do we, manage our finances? And so our 5 F's are faith, family, faculty, finance, and fitness. So the big 5 F's. And I wanted that solution for myself, and luckily had a lot of people around me that I knew. And again, I can't be the only guy who is like going through this and wants wisdom and mentorship from a faith perspective, as it speaks to my work and money and fitness. And so we just said, let's pick a day. Let's do a 24-hour retreat. We'll pick our top people that we think could breathe life into this, like TJ. TJ was at the very first retreat. And let's see if other people have the same need. And that's where it came from. And then we're just like, cool, other people do. And we're going to continue doing this. And we've been doing it for like 6 years. And then with the school, our boys were in a school, and it was mostly going well, but there were some things that I felt I wanted them to be exposed to. With the amount of hours that they spend in school was a tremendous amount of hours. And although I felt like they would be getting, a great education, the basics, the core skills like reading, writing, and math, I felt like there were some character things that I wanted to be present in the environment that they were in.
Yeah.
And so again, it came from, and we had no intentions of starting a school.
I don't know many people who do.
No. And so my ears were up. There's a problem kind of going on, a conversation with Nancy and I, what do we do? Do we switch? Do we go to homeschool them so we can kind of control that? And then we heard about Acton, and we heard about this model, and it was, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we want. And again, we can't be the only parents that feel this way. And so we find out that there's this amazing model and this, it's not a franchise, but there's a system that you can just tap into, and they look for entrepreneurial parents to launch these schools. And it's the fastest growing private school network in the world. So we're like, wow, this is amazing. So we're going down this rabbit trail of learning about the methodology. And then we just felt called to do it. I mean, it's the simplest way. You need to do this. Is this kind of like calling that Nancy and I felt. So we just said, all right, let's do it. And then here we are. And then SISU is kind of a similar thing. There's more of just like a fun business, but we were using it and had a kind of a bad experience and wanted to make it really simple for people to get and use a sauna, because there's so many benefits from using it, that and doing cold immersion. So I think that's the common theme.
Lay of the Land is brought to you by John Carroll University's Bowler College of Business, widely recognized as one of the top business schools in the region. As we've heard time and time again from entrepreneurs here on Lay of the Land, many of whom are proud alumni of John Carroll University, success in this ever-changing world of business requires a dynamic and innovative mindset, deep understanding of emerging technologies and systems, strong ethics, leadership prowess, acute business acumen, all qualities nurtured through the Bowler College of Business. With 4 different MBA programs of study spanning professional, online, hybrid, and 1-year flexible, the Bowler College of Business provides flexible timelines and various class structures for each MBA track, including online, in-person, hybrid, and asynchronous, all to offer the most effective options for you, including the ability to participate in an elective international study tour, providing unparalleled opportunities to expand your global business knowledge by networking with local companies overseas and experiencing a new culture. The career impact of a Bowler MBA is formative and will help prepare you for this future of business and get more out of your career. To learn more about John Carroll University's Bowler MBA programs, please go to business.jcu.edu. The Bowler College of Business is fully accredited by AACSB International, the highest accreditation a college of business can have.
All right. Well, we can dive into each of these a little bit, because they're fascinating parts of all of them. For ISI, the question that comes to mind for me is, how is there a dearth of something to like? It feels like something like that should exist. Why was there such a space for it, you think?
I don't think it was. My best experience was like the church that we grew up. There's a men's group. Yeah. And, the guys get together, and it was good. It was good, but it was, I wanted more specific, wisdom. And when Joe and I were thinking about ISI, we were actually on our way back from strategic coach, and we were like, this is great. We're getting great business coaching. But there's the other areas that we need that are on our responsibility as like men, as fathers, to like take care of these things. And we distilled it down to our 5 F's. And we said, this would be fantastic to talk about these ones in a format where guys can come in and get great wisdom and be, recharged and come back to their families feeling like they're on fire and they have great input on what to do in those. And I just didn't see it. I didn't see a place where you could really distill down those top 5 things that we all face in a format like that, in a way where you could get away, out of our busy life of managing business and kids and all the responsibilities that we have, and have 24 hours unplugged to really, refresh our mind, and also time be inspired by other guys. And so it's something we wanted, and we just didn't see that it existed. We saw facets of it. There's great finance things. There's great, fitness things. There's great things on how to be a family, but we didn't see all 5 in one place. So that was kind of what motivated us just to do it. Mm.
So for SISU,
mm-hmm.
I think, for one, it would be interesting to, unpack the name there and what's all involved. But I think, for anyone listening, it's helpful to like go online and like look at what these things look like, because they're beautiful. Yeah. I've not experienced one, but
we need to get you in one. We should have done this interview in one.
That'd be incredible. But I certainly understand the power of sauna as a nice therapy, and
mm-hmm.
it just feels incredible when you come out of it. You're just incredibly present. But I love to understand, where this drive to create the best sauna experience, comes from. Yeah.
Well, we started using one ourselves, and we bought one. It came in, we built it, we assembled it. And it was, a challenging process to figure out what size, what shape, what heater, all these options, way too many choices to make. people just really want the benefits of sauna. So we wanted to make it super easy, but at the same time, very, very high quality. And so that was the kind of the marriage of what initiated us to start it. And we knew that science was really starting to prove like real benefits of sauna therapy.
Oh yeah,
so many things. And now it's like coming out in droves, like how much true science there is about the benefits. I mean, it's an endless list of things. And so it was the marriage of that simplicity and then being here in Ohio in Maker's Country, like we can make these things. I guarantee there's, teams. So we teamed up with this guy who runs a manufacturing facility and has a lot of Amish teams. So every board is handcrafted and hand selected. And so it's something we're really proud of putting out there. And when we see people using it and getting it and the benefits that they're getting from it, not just physically, but even a lot of couples are using it. It's like the thing they put the kids down and they use it for 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And it's their actual time to connect. And so outside of the physical benefits, there's these relational connections that are happening, which didn't really think that was going to be a thing. It was for us, but it's neat to see other people saying, this is our little 20 minutes together to really connect at the end of a busy day and unwind. And so stories like that just continue to motivate us to just make a really simple, high quality product that helps people.
And where does the name come from?
SISU is a Finnish term. It's more of like a mantra. And so in Finland, you'll hear people say like SISU, and it means like grit. It's like grit, determination, bravery, courage. It just kind of embodies all those things.
Yeah.
And really they even say like when perseverance ends, SISU begins. So it's really just this like mindset that they all have to be gritty, to be tough, to endure hard things and do hard things. And so we heard about that name and we're just like, this has got to be it, because it gets hot in there. You're going to have it up to 230 degrees and you feel like you're going to die and you love it. But it's for people who are kind of seeking that next level in their life.
Yeah. I mean, so you've built like a whole business around.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's been so fun. Yeah.
What does it look like and where do you see it going?
I don't really exactly know. We're just doing our best to make a great product and letting people know about it and keeping up with the pace that we can keep up with demand from a really high quality perspective. So, there's some limits on how much we think we can actually produce each month, but we're shipping them all over the country. People, this isn't new. We're only about a year and a half into really doing this and making them on our own, but we just know people are benefiting from it. And that motivates us to just push it as far as we can take it. I don't really know how far it'll go.
Yeah.
But I do think it could turn into, beyond just sauna, the idea of SISU and the brand of, doing hard things and being gritty and being determined and brave and being courageous. I think it could definitely expand beyond just sauna into other things.
What have you learned from the process of going through that idea from, idea to an actual sauna that is a physical thing that you didn't grasp fully from your experience with university teas? So
it's a great question. Here's the thing that I've learned with SISU is what we have built is a brand, and people say you don't buy a drill, you buy a hole in the wall, like that thing.
Yeah.
Like, so we have focused, almost exclusively on the benefits of sauna and building a brand and building reputation and, tapping into that emotional piece. And in the other businesses, it hasn't been so much. It's been more product driven. Like, here's why this is the best sauna, and here's why this. And we really haven't. We said like that needs to be like table stakes. Like, we have to make the best sauna, but let's focus on the fact that you're going to connect with your wife. Let's on the fact that you're going to lower your blood pressure without using any meds. Let's focus on the relationships you're going to connect with your neighbors by inviting them over, and these deep connections that you really want to have, but you don't really try to get there. So it's all these other things that aren't product related that we've focused on. And I think had we done it the other way around and been more product focused, we would not have had the success we've had, because we're focusing on, that emotional tie and really building the brand around those things, which is something I haven't done in the other things yet.
Yeah. And you observe that from how people respond to the brand. Mm-hmm. Is that?
Yeah. Just what they're saying, or, what motivates them, or in a conversation, like what lights them up, the questions they're asking, or why people are buying. And the more we press into the experience and the brand and the benefits that come from it, it just seems like that's everybody else is focusing on the product.
Yeah.
There's other people building good saunas. We're not the only one building good saunas, but I think, there's something to like, I want a SISU because of the brand that has been established and the trust that goes along with it. So it's been a new journey.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. The association, that brand that's always stuck with me is it's a promise.
Yeah.
And, you're promising certain pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
To the experience.
Yeah, it is.
So, all right. So you got that, and you got ISI, and now you've started a school.
Yeah.
So before we even go into that, how do you balance everything? How do you think about balance? And I imagine, work-life balance is a general concept, I bet you have some interesting thoughts on, but how do you think about balance?
Yeah, it comes back to that question you asked me earlier about, and I was kind of describing, I'm going through this transition of, how can I give my best to UTs and to Acton and SISU and ISI? Those are like my 4, vocational things that I'm involved in. So of my work bucket, let's just say that work bucket's 40 hours as a starting point.
Yep.
It's like, okay, if that's all I'm allocating to my work bucket, how can I maximize, within each of those and not let it, because I think I could work, this is probably like you, I could work 100 hours a week, and just, the more you work, the busier you get. So right now I'm thinking of it like where I'll spend, 2 days a week on UTs, a day on Acton, a day on SISU. So with that, there's only so many things I can do within each of those. And that's where the who, not how idea comes around me. I need to know what I uniquely gifted to do and the thing that lights me up the most and where I can deliver the most value for others. And then everything else needs to be some, responsibility of somebody else. So having tools like EOS and being able to, here's how we do it. This is a system. It's not about me.
Yeah.
Those kind of mindsets help me create like balance, but it's more just intentional structure of where I'm spending my time, who I'm doing it with, and make sure I'm owning the responsibilities that my partners and in the business or with Nancy that they're counting on me for.
Yeah.
So, but it flows a little bit, but that's kind of like how I'm breaking it up, and I'm sure that's a little bit of a work in process. I think it's always a moving target when you're an entrepreneur.
It certainly is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the school front, I would love to understand a little bit about, the business of school and, any other additional learnings that you've had from that you didn't get from, creating saunas and from universities. But then also just kind of like more holistically, I think this endeavor, is a really interesting one, because it's about your kids and, more holistically about, education. And you've mentioned some concepts already that I feel like probably resonate into that, learning in practice rather than in theory, and the experience you had at Miami, doing that.
Yeah.
But
learn by doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like how you've approached opting to create this path for your own children.
Yeah.
In the form of a school. That's crazy and awesome.
Yeah. It's a high calling too. It's definitely, it comes with it's an amazing opportunity that also has a lot of responsibility tied to it, as you can imagine. Not only just the safety of, all the learners that are at the school every day, but making sure that, they're coming to Acton, and, my wife and Nancy, who runs the school, are in charge of creating this environment where they can learn. And we were definitely on the fence for a while. We were actually in, and then we decided to pull out. And then when we actually retreated and said, we'll just leave that to somebody else. We'll just send our kids to school. We actually got pulled in way more in and said, no, you need to do this. Like you need to go pursue this. But the premise of the school is kind of 3 things, and it's learn to learn to do, and learn to be. And so it teaches them a lifelong spirit of learning and curiosity. How do you be a lifelong learner? How do you actually learn? How do you learn things? You want to know how to do something? How can you go out and learn that skill? And then learn by doing is hands-on. Like go out and don't just read a book about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Go take a class. Go learn by doing. And then the B is where the character. And so being a Christian school, or teaching about integrity and faith and how all those things about who you're becoming, in many ways, when you ask a parent, like, what do you want for your child? They don't talk about being great at math. They don't. They want it's the person that they're becoming. Yet the school that they choose
the eulogy values.
Yeah. Exactly. What do you want them to be? Who do you want them to be? What's important to you as a parent? And you hear those things, and it's usually almost always about the eulogy values. It's who they're becoming in the process. And so we didn't see that in the schools, the 2 schools prior that we were a part of. And we thought, man, this is the kind of environment that we would want to create. And along the way, one guy, David Krebs, who was our architect, has this really great guy, AODK architecture. And he said, what you guys are considering doing is what I would call an ancestral decision. And people before you made an ancestral decision to come to the United States and made different decisions that now you are the descendant of those things, of that ancestral decision that was made before you. And so, yes, this is a huge thing. It's a big thing, but it's one of those maybe very few, if ever, opportunities in your life that you have to make an ancestral decision. And, to think about creating the environment, not only for our kids, our 3 boys, but surely there's got to be other families that feel the same way. And it's very similar to the other things. We put it out there and we started talking to families, and they're like, yeah, that's exactly, and when you see a parent, when you're meeting with a family, whether it's the learner and the parents or whoever you're meeting with, and you see them, their light go off, like, this is an option. I can send my kids to a school like that. Like, this is a solution, because there's things I didn't like here, I didn't like there, and there's no perfect school. Like, our school is not perfect. There's no perfect school, but to see that what you have, lights up a lot of their things and solves a lot of their issues, it's a really rewarding thing.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And then it's motivating because you want to make it this awesome experience. And not only, our 3 boys are there, so obviously we want to make it great for them, but we want to make it great for all these families that are entrusting their education of their children to us.
Yeah. Well, the whole philosophy of it certainly resonates. I mean, I think if you can come out of school knowing how to learn and being curious for the rest of your life and thinking critically and wanting to do good, those are,
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of traditional paths kind of squelch that out of you, squelch that creativity. Yep. And love of learning. I don't know a lot of people that come out of high school or middle school and say, I just love learning. I think it maybe comes back as an adult, but there's a period. It was certainly true for me where I wanted to get through school as fast as I possibly could, because it didn't allow me to explore in a way that I wanted to. So, it's been an answer to prayer, and it's been really fun. And Acton, equips us with. We would have never done it on our own, and that's a great thing about being tied up to the Acton network is there's right now between about 300 to 400 schools in the U.S. that are growing, and we're all part of this network of sharing best practices and tools and resources, and we're all contributing, and we're all rooting for each other. And so there's this ginormous playbook of things to do to use, and so that gives us the confidence to know what works, and we're not just flying by the seat of our pants. We're using a playbook that's been tested and works.
Holistically, across all these things, what does success mean to you? What is the impact that you are trying to have?
It comes back to the same mission. I mean, maybe it's boring to keep coming back to the same thing, but I would say success is doing that. It's continuing to develop myself and continue to upgrade who I am. And then at the same time, using whatever gifts, experiences, resources I can to pour back into other people. I think that's, a life well lived. Yeah.
TJ mentioned one other question that I could ask. And so it feels like a good spot to do it. But he wanted to relay the question of exploring this idea of the gap versus the gain, and when enough is enough.
Yeah.
And how you think about those.
The gap and the gain. Yeah. It's not something I made up. I got it from Strategic Coach, but it's really helpful as an entrepreneur. So where you are, looking between where you are and where you want to be is the gap ahead. And I want to go hit that next revenue projection or make that amount of money. And when you're looking back, that's the gain. So where you came from, the things you did. And so when you're looking back on accomplishments, wins, successes, that's where you get confidence. You feel really good. If we sat here for 2 minutes and you just wrote down all the things that you accomplished, you would feel really good about yourself. If you sat here for 2 minutes and wrote about all the things you want to do in the future, you would feel maybe motivated to go get those things, but you'd also feel this weight that you have to go get them. And it's kind of the opposite of not confidence, but it's more of it can be negatively associated. And as entrepreneurs, as we progress on our gap, what we do is we just continue to move out where we want to go. We're continually moving and creating more of a gap. And so I think it's just really important to protect our own mind, our own confidence about what we've done, what we've accomplished by focusing on the gains and, making sure that we're showing up as our best by reflecting on that, coming from a state of confidence as opposed to a state of, there's not enough. I still have so much more to do, but feeling like valued and worthy and good about what you have created to this point, because there's always going to be something to do.
There is.
So,
well, and I do love that. The corollary, if there is one, was when success becomes significance. And your thoughts on that in the context of, developing people and changing lives too.
Yeah. I think that I don't think it needs to be some huge epic thing to be significant. I think every day, every moment can be significant. I think, the way that you show up and, spend a minute or two with your kids making breakfast for them is a significant thing. So my thoughts on it, and, just taking my own advice, is like not be looking at these like epic moments. It's just the everyday stuff. What would I want my kids to say? And, they're not going to talk about anything worldly related. They're going to talk about, that comes back to like that eulogy stuff. Like those are the everyday successes and everyday significance. I think it's significant in the small things. Sometimes it's good to like major in the minor things of being there for Nancy, being there for my boys, like them knowing who I am, having a good relationship with them. Do my team members think that I, loved them, cared for them, really wanted the best for them? I think those are the significant things. And you don't need to be some super duper successful, entrepreneur to do those things. Like it's just everyday interactions, I would say, are the significant ones.
When you look back maybe at some of the gain, what do you feel were some of the most challenging things that you had to overcome as part of, your whole journey so far?
Yeah, there's been a lot. I think most recent, the apparel company, keeping it alive through COVID was insane. Having to shut down and, events being basically canceled for an event-based business. So, modifying the plans through that and pivoting and all those things to like stay alive and really be on the other side of that, and having understand a vision for the future and how we can be great 20 years from now, that's definitely a big one. But other than that, I think it's some of those big life moments of, having our twin boys and bringing them in the world, and still, staying close with Nancy and the boys and still running a business. Like those are, to me, are the things that are actually were some of the bigger like super challenges. Like how do you balance being a dad, of twins when it's all on, full on, and still running a business and making it through those challenging times. And then, for us, there's been some of those like pivotal moments where we've like lost some, very key people, and you just viewed everything as like the growth mindset. Everything that happens to me is an opportunity to learn and grow. Everything that happens to me today is in my best interest, and it's an opportunity to learn and grow. So I am one of those people who's an eternal optimist. I don't focus on the negative things that have happened. I just think, cool, it happened, and what can I learn from it? How can I get better because of it, and not dwell on the fact that it sucked.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and it's mostly unrelated to everything we've talked about, but you had described, and this probably comes into play when you talk about your allocation of time, and the things outside the vocational focus. The importance of fitness and, kind of adventure. But you described this like race that you're involved with that I had never heard of.
Adventure racing?
Yes, that's kind of crazy. And I would just love if you could talk a little bit about that.
You'd love it. You should sign up for it. So my brother and I, we've always been like mountain bikers and trail running and do outdoor stuff. And so we always look for something to have on our calendar because it just gets us together and trains. But we recently did this adventure race, and it's a combination of paddling, trail running, and mountain biking. And you basically are thrown into the woods, and you have a map of these different checkpoints, and you gotta figure out how to get to them in the most efficient manner. And then whoever gets all the checkpoints and comes back in the shortest amount of time, is the winner. And so you got to figure, do I want to paddle to this one? Do I want to run to this one? Do I want to bike to this one? So it's really super fun to do and super fun to train for.
Fun, yeah.
But then there's all these life lessons that you could overlap on having your map and knowing your route and knowing the training that goes into the task and being in the right shape. So it's just fun. And I mean, at the core of it, I just like doing stuff with my brother, and I like being out in the woods and being out in nature. And so it kind of checks all those boxes.
Yeah. I do want to try it at some point.
Yeah, you'd love it. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I'll do it with my
you're welcome to
brothers
join our team. There's a lot of these teams are either solo, 2-person, 3-person. So be careful what you wish.
Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I have a few more questions, I guess, as we wrap up.
Sure.
One is, if you turn your lens more towards the future and think about what comes next, are you open and seeking to add more things on the vocational front to your plate? Like, how do you think about? Because again, when we talk about the thread that ties all of these things you're working on together, it seems to just stem from your interests and passion and recognition of problems. Do you want to keep expanding the set of problems you're trying to solve, or are you trying to focus here? Like,
it's a great question. Yes.
Yeah. All the above.
I'm not necessarily, I would be very, very happy, very content with exactly what we have going on right now. I would also be totally fine with doing more. Like if there's more locations that we wanted to open up with the school, expanding the thing, but I also am, like I mentioned, faith's like a really important, piece of like how I process things and how we do things. And so if I feel very compelled or called to do something, or to swing the pendulum the other way and really simplify, I think there's just an element of being in tune with that and feel like I'm following that calling, whether it be to expand or to simplify. I don't know that the thing that I look back on it, I didn't think I would be doing anything that I am doing now. It's not like I thought, oh, I'm going to have, this and this other thing. Like none of the things I'm doing now, probably like you or most people, you end up doing things and end up in places that you never thought you'd be. So I don't feel like I'm necessarily like in charge of those things, if that, not to get too like
free will. Do we have it?
Yeah. I just feel like they're meant to be. And then I'm like saying yes to the task at hand and, saying yes to those, like those assignments that I feel like were uniquely designed for me to step into. And so if it's more or less, I think I'll just try to know what those are and try to discern that as best as I can.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Is there anything unsaid that, we haven't talked about that you feel is particularly important as you reflect on your journey, the things you're building, the things you care about, that you want to express?
No, just today though, but when you asked the question about the significance, I kind of went on a little rant there about just like the small things. And I think that is really important. I'm guessing, audience is probably more like entrepreneurial, business oriented. And I think we are looking for these big moments to validate us and others. And I really think it's just finding joy and significance in the everyday and the small things, in the super small things of, that are super easy and basically free to do, and to not lose sight of that, or just always be building for that next thing. But to take inventory of what you have, be grateful for, one of the mentors and the guy who spoke at ISI just recently, he said familiarity deserves intentionality. So FDI is kind of how I remember it. Familiarity deserves intentionality. So these great things that we have that we become, desensitized to are actually like amazing, and they deserve the intentional focus. So it could be just as simple as like being grateful for running water, grateful for that your kids, your wife, whatever, like, that you have a roof over your head. There's the things that you have totally taken for granted because you're looking for the next thing, that gap out there. And so that would be just like, whether it's journaling or gratitude or whatever it is, just take stock of how far you've come and be prideful in that, and take great confidence and realize like every small moment is a great opportunity to feel really good and help people.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful sentiment and a perfect seg to our traditional closing question, which normally I phrase as, a hidden gem in Cleveland, but, it could be something that you think we maybe collectively take for granted in Cleveland.
So is this anything? It's like restaurant?
Oh, yeah.
Like gym?
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Geography, foods, places, things, experiences.
Oh, man. There's so many in Cleveland. I saw the question. I was like, oh, man. I love Thai food. There's this tiny little, it's called Thai Cravings. I think it's now in Rocky River. Great Thai food, tiny little place. Everything's made from scratch. Great Thai food. And yeah, that's probably like my number one
Perfect
thing. That's a little date spot that we end up at. So
yeah,
that's my one.
Wonderful. I'll let you check it out.
Yep.
Well, Nick, I just want to thank you, for taking the time and being as candid as you are and sharing your story.
Absolutely, man. Grateful to be here.
If people had anything they wanted to follow up with you about, what would be the best way for them to do so?
If you do show notes, I'll just put my email on there.
Okay.
Have them follow up with me.
Perfect.
And we'll put the different websites to the things. But if they want to connect, I would say just shoot me an email.
Perfect. Awesome.
So,
thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That's all for this week. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show. So if you have any feedback, please send over an email to jeffrey@layoftheland.fm or find us on Twitter @podlayoftheland or @sternhefe, JEFE. If you or someone you know would make a good guest for our show, please reach out as well and let us know. And if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or on your preferred podcast player. Your support goes a long way to help us spread the word and continue to bring the Cleveland founders and builders we love having on the show. We'll be back here next week at the same time to map more of the land. The Lay of the Land podcast was developed in collaboration with the Up Company, LLC. At the time of this recording, unless otherwise indicated, we do not own equity or other financial interests in the company which appear on this show. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of any entity which employs us. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.